Welcome. You're tuned to the Urban Affairs program. It's time to get up for Urban Perspectives with your host, Pete Rhodes.
Welcome. You're watching Urban Perspectives. This edition is sponsored in part by the Council on Black Minnesotans, Stair Step Foundation, the Metropolitan Economic Development Association, and Comcast. I'm your host, Pete Rhodes. On this episode of Urban Perspectives, we begin our series recognizing outstanding contributions by women in arts, business, education, and government. Join us as we salute women on Urban Perspectives. My first guest is a creative force on and off stage as a singer, songwriter, actress, producer, and entrepreneur. She has numerous stage credits performing in plays from Rent to The Color Purple. She's a member of the Grammy Award-winning Sounds of Blackness. Please welcome to Urban Perspectives, Jamecia Bennett.
Thank you.
Jamecia, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
I am so glad to have you here. You know, we've watched your career grow.
Yes.
From a youngster on stage in the Christmas play to the great things that you're doing in our community now. Yes. So coming from a family filled with women of talent and national prominence, how did you gain your own style?
I think I gained my own style from combining everything that I learned from everybody. My mother calls me a sponge.
Okay.
I get information from everybody that I'm around. Dennis Spears brought me into jazz. I have Miss Ginger Commodore. I brought her into my life, feeling the jazz. My mother with R&B and music. My aunt from the gospel world. I think I just took even your wife, business part. I just take everybody's little bits of everything and put it all together and create. And just to create who I am, I think I am not who I am because of myself. I'm because of who I am because of everybody.
Wow.
So I think I give that credit to everybody who has made me.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now you've been singing with superstars like Janet Jackson, Lionel Richie, Patti LaBelle. These are some singers. What inspired you the most to go now into acting, because you're doing acting as well, and what was one of your most memorable roles?
Well, what inspired me to go into acting was my grandmother. My grandmother kind of pushed me out there. My mother was doing a production called A Woman Like That at the Village Gate in New York. It was directed by Donald Lawrence. He's with the Tri-City Singers. He was one of the first that did an urban play, and my mother was performing in it, and she ended up getting sick and needed surgery. And they needed someone to take her part because her voice was so strong. And my grandma was like, Missy can do it. You know, and I was in high school and I was like, I don't want to do that. She was like, oh, you're gonna do it. And she went and bought me all the clothes. My mother played a church woman, bought me clothes and hats and sent me to New York. And once I stepped on that stage and I saw the response of the people, and I knew at that moment that once you step on that stage, it's not about you, it's about the audience and what you do for them. And to hear people say, oh my God, I love you. Oh, you made me feel so good. You healed me. You want to feel more of that. And all I have to do is stand on here and do what I do, what God has given me. Then hey, that's me for the rest of my life. I'm good at that.
You know, in the mid-90s, you had that hit single, Rodeo Style, with Island Records. I remember that so well. Tell us about that experience, and has it helped you as well moving forward?
Yes. That song, Rodeo Style, has developed a career for me that I can't even imagine. I was signed with Mercury Records at the time, and that song was placed on Jason's Lyric soundtrack. And they sent the soundtrack out, and they had like LL Cool J, Jodeci, all these big time names, and they sent it to the radio. What happens with radio, when radio gets it in their hands, they play what they want to play, and what ended up happening when they started playing my song, and they were like, well, who was this? So it was a song without a face. So the record company sent me out, tried to do all these videos. They did 2 videos trying to get it right. And from that point on, it was a level for me because I wrote on that song. So we started my career as far as writing with ASCAP, and I went further with that to do so many other things with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. So
that's great. It's just marvelous how things react and other things follow.
Yes, sir.
So you know your daughter now, Paris Bennett, was an American Idol top 5 finalist. How have you used your experience to not only help her, but other young people in our community, the next generation?
Well, with Paris, she's a force to be reckoned with on her own.
Indeed.
Her and all of the young people that are around in this new generation. It's a new generation of music that we haven't even tapped into. So I try to do events that keep them energized with this music industry and going forward and using their ideas as far as social media and digital work. So I do open mic events where not only do I allow them to get on stage, but I critique them, and I tell them, well, this is that, or work with this person. So instead of just allowing them to get up there and just do whatever they want to do, I give them the option to get critiques from other people that are in the industry. I host a karaoke night, but it's a real karaoke night. People can get up there and actually sing with a live band. Yeah. So to give them that feel of
the stage,
the stage and presence.
That's great.
So I have a company called Minnesota Movement, and that's what we do. Using that to give. I have so many Facebook inboxes from youth that call me, what should I do about being a manager? I need a manager, and I give them advice, free advice.
That's so important.
Jimmy and Terry, and they helped me, so now I feel like I have to step into the position, especially with the young people in this new generation. They need somebody that they can reach out and touch and feel like it's an intimate relationship.
Well, they call you queen for nothing. What's next in the little time that we have for Jamecia Bennett?
Well, this year I am so happy again to step and grace the stage with the Penumbra Theater doing a show called Detroit 67. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, well, that's great. And you have a business as well over with Arnella's over there.
Yes, Miss Arnella has brought us, welcomed us into her home. And my brother and I, Larry Robinson, we had a restaurant called Big L's, and we do soul food. And it is absolutely amazing. You guys need to come.
I'm sure it's good. I know you come from a family of singers and cooks. So we'll be there soon. Jamecia Bennett, thank you so much for being here. We love you so dearly.
All right. Thank you.
Great, great.
Thank you.
Weekly here on Urban Perspectives, we present Shining Stars, highlighting people, places, and events that contribute to the vibrancy of the urban community. Our Shining Star this week is an interdisciplinary artist, writer, performer, actress, and a youth educator. She's a Twin Cities native who began performing in 1989. Meet our shining star, PaviElle French.
I am on my own, and I feel like I won't make it, because when I see the rain, it seems to pour. And I'm neglecting health, and all the time I tell myself I know there's something better in store. My name is PaviElle French. I am an interdisciplinary artist, meaning number one, I'm a writer, vocalist, dancer, actor, all around just creative kind of person, and I work with kids, so I do a little bit of everything, left brain, right brain. I work at St. Paul Conservatory for Performing Artists, so it is perfect for me. I love it because it's young artists, and I was a young artist, so me and the kids get together, and I just try to keep them inspired to go to school amongst doing their art, and I'm there for them, and I'm there for the teachers, and it's just a nice little day job for me to have, and and be an artist at the same time, because I always felt like I could do that I could do both, and I didn't have to make a choice. So it's a perfect fit. I refuse to be turned down, and I'm gonna do what I want, and that's just kind of the artist that I am. It's like this: if I set my mind to it, I will speak it into existence. I will manifest it by any way, and this is just what it is. Chaka Khan, number one, Ella Fitzgerald, Donny Hathaway, Marvin Gaye, Curtis Mayfield. I like a lot of old school artists because there's something about the baby boomer generation for me, and the way in which they interpreted their art, and the way in which that they carried on the torch. They did it in a very different way than Gen Xers. And it was true. It was soulful, it was protest, it was life. Hi, my name is PaviElle French, and you're watching Urban Perspectives.
Thanks, PaviElle. Our next guest has been recognized as one of the 84 exceptional women leaders contributing to the Twin Cities art scene. Meet Patricia Mitchell next on Urban Perspectives. Welcome back to Urban Perspectives. Our next guest boasts an extensive career in program development, marketing, and arts organization planning. She was the CEO of the Los Angeles Philharmonic. She also managed the 18,000-seat iconic Hollywood Bowl. She is now the president and CEO of the Ordway Center for Performing Arts. Please welcome to Urban Perspectives, Patricia Mitchell. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good, thanks, Pete.
You know, we have had an opportunity to see each other back and forth in St. Paul at that beautiful theater of yours, and every time I see you, you have that lovely smile and your hair is always in place.
Well, you missed me on a lot of days then.
Well, you're doing fantastic work over there. So I guess I'll start out by saying, according to the mission statement of the Ordway for Performing Arts, it's a center that catalyst is for artist vitality of our community. What is your goal for making that continue? Well,
I think people often think of vitality in economic terms. I don't myself usually, but one of the impacts of the Ordway for the last 30 years has been to generate economic vitality, particularly in downtown St. Paul. About $58 million in additional activity beyond the cost of the tickets. But I think of it as a vitality of welcoming people in to the world of the performing arts and how that makes individuals have a new vitality, whether they're fifth graders or baby boomers or anybody in between from every corner of the metro.
That's a different way of looking at it as opposed to vitality and money. But speaking of money, the impact has been great. You just mentioned $58 million annually on the local economy over there. What have you done and what will continue to be done to increase even more?
Well, the biggest increase in every kind of vitality is the new concert hall, which is opening this spring and which is so beautiful and which will welcome, it's an 1,100-seat theater, and we'll have potentially, when it's fully up and running, as many as 200 performances a year there. Wow. So think of all those people coming to downtown St. Paul, and importantly, think about all the artists who will be on that stage and the staff members who will be working. So just by adding the concert hall, we're adding enormously to the artistic vitality of the community and the economic vitality as well.
Yeah, that's great. Now, what kind of programs, because we see dance, concerts, talk about the programs that the Ordway does, but how you engage in your aspect artists and attract diverse audiences with it?
One of the great things about being a performing arts center is that we can present artists of many art forms and many ethnic and artistic perspectives. So as our community continues to change and grow and variegate, we're able to respond to that by the artists that we present. And we try really hard to engage authentically with community. So for this past fall, for example, we've had a program called Raíces y Sueños, or Roots and Dreams, which is a focus on the art and artists of Cuba. Interestingly, we planned this, of course, before Mr. Obama opened up the doors. And we try to work with members of the community who have a particular connection to that place and those artists, and not just in the performances, but in community conversations and other kinds of workshops and demonstrations and working in the schools and outside the schools and with many partners.
That means you keep your ear to the ground there. How do you do that? Again, I see you everywhere, so I gather that's how you do it.
That's one of the ways. Also, we have a wonderful staff. We have Dana Martinez, who is the artistic director for World Music and Dance and the International Children's Festival, and Jamie Rocco, who's our theater guy. So they get the real fun, because yes, you see me around town, but you'll see Dana around the world.
Right, well,
I don't get that part. What am I doing wrong?
Well, you have such a great location over there to be around all the time. I guess it's one of the most beautiful locations with a park right there that's probably around the country where Arts Center is located.
It's one of the things that, if you look at pictures of what Rice Park looked like before the Ordway, the old Wilder building was on that site. Let's just say it didn't look then like it looks now.
Under your administration, how has it changed? As you talked about, it didn't look like that then. What have you really put in there, you think?
I think, Sally Ordway Irvin, who famously longtime St. Paul native, famously came downtown after the Civic Auditorium was closed and there was nothing to do. She said, there's not even a movie. We have to do something about that. And that was 35 years ago. And since that time, since she built as she said, a theater on the park by the river, which is what the Ordway is.
Yeah.
We have the River Center, we have Excel Center, we have the Science Museum, we have the Children's Museum, all that activity centered around the Rice Park area of downtown St. Paul. And the Ordway, you can't say it's exactly because of the Ordway, but it certainly
has a big part in it.
Followed rather than led it.
Yeah. You know, you're celebrating your 30 years in a minute or so that we have, less than a minute they're saying. But what do you want your legacy to be if you were looking at that? And I know you don't, but what would you want your legacy to be left in the next 30 years?
Yeah, I don't. But what I think of is Sally Ordway Urban's legacy, because she famously said she wanted the Ordway to be a place for lots of music, lots of everything for everybody.
Yeah.
And so what we try to do every day is to live Sally Ordway Urban's legacy.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope happens for the next 30 years.
Yeah, well, you're doing a fantastic job. I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad to have you here with us with that beautiful smile. Keep it up, all right?
Thanks.
Patricia Mitchell, thank you so much. Our next guest is an expert in artist management, strategic design planning, fund development, broadcast, and arts curating. Meet Janis Lane-Ewart next on Urban Perspectives. My next guest was KFAI Radio's first African-American woman general manager. She has served on the National Federation of Community Broadcasters Board of Directors, the Minnesota State Arts Board, and the Association of Performing Arts Presenters. She is currently the principal consultant for Collective Eye Productions. Please welcome to Urban Perspectives, Janis Lane-Ewart.
Hi.
Janis, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm so fine. You know, we met you, my wife and I, the first time we met was at the Walker Arts Center.
That's right.
And we were just waiting to get in, and all of a sudden we looked and saw this striking woman over there. Said, we got to talk to her, and she felt like she had to talk to us, and the rest is history. I'm so glad that you're here with us today, and for all the work you've done.
Thank you.
It's just really good stuff.
Thanks.
Speaking of which, how did you begin your career in music and arts that led you to becoming general manager over at KFAI?
Well, you know, I was born in Chicago, and that's a great jazz town.
Yes, it is.
And the opportunity to serve in that community, particularly with the Jazz Institute of Chicago, really immersed me with artists and the decision-making process that takes place in actually formulating the guests for the annual jazz festival. Did that for many years. That also made me very cognizant of the fact that there are people who perform, and then there are those who work behind the scenes. I say my instrument is pencil and paper.
Okay.
Maybe now it's more computerized. There's always someone that needs to make the work happen, and that's where I felt very comfortable, and that then led me into quite a good life in music and the arts in general.
Yeah, well, coming from Chicago, we'll put it in, we do it big.
That's right, that's right.
You are currently the creative consultant for Creative Eye Production. What does the company do in general to promote arts?
Well, I really work to have artists and nonprofit organizations know that there's someone else who can possibly really tell their story and tell it in a way that then attracts certain kinds of resources, most often money, but there's always an opportunity to find other partners that help you find space, make connections with other community engagement projects, etc. And so I really go in and ask what it is that you want to achieve. Here are the ways in which I think you're not maximizing on your vision and mission, and this is what I can do to help you achieve your goals.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, a principal consultant means you've started a company.
That's right.
Okay, it's yours. You're also a guest co-curator of a special exhibit entitled Free at First at the famed DuSable Museum in Chicago. Tell us about the exhibit.
Oh gosh. Well, the exhibit is really an opportunity to give voice to the oldest musicians collective in the United States. The Association for the Advancement of Creative Musicians came into being on March 8th in 1965. Fortunately, there was someone at the museum, Dr. Carol Adams, who'd been the CEO and also a curator for quite some time. She recognized that my actual first job as an arts administrator was for that organization in 1977. So she called me, she said, look, can you call all these guys and girls and try to pull together their history over the last 50 years and then find a way to exhibit it here at the DuSable Museum. And it was a daunting task. I'd never done anything like that. I've been to many a museum, but you know, now the word that really sticks in my mind are didactics.
Didactics.
The boards that tell you an overview of each section of the gallery.
Yeah.
And I've totally immersed in that, and actually very pleased with the fact that so many people from Chicago came out on the opening day of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. The exhibit called Free at First is really to recognize that this collective of artists came together to control their own destiny, to be in charge of how they were going to present music, what kinds of music, and to have a collective perspective, which is very appropriate for me because I'm all about collectivity too.
Yeah.
So it's been very, very enriching.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. You know, I mentioned earlier that I'm from that area, the Hyde Park area where the museum is at.
Yes.
And we will be seeing it once we get back to Chicago to visit our folks.
Great.
Now, you have a very robust resume in music and arts. Where did that interest come from?
You know, I have to say I grew up in a household where there was a lot of music. We danced. My brother taught me how to, you know, do social dancing at a young age. And so it was always just, I guess, very natural. I can't point to anything specific. I know that I moved here in 1989, and the gentleman who helped secure a position for me was also a volunteer programmer at KFAI Fresh Air Radio. And so when he moved, he let me move into his apartment. I took over his position at a 9-state regional arts organization. And he said, well, you might as well try radio too, which I had no skills, but someone took me in and trained me. And that began just broadening my perspective in the arts and recognizing that there are ways in which not only could you bring music to people's lives, but you could also engage community in conversation. So I didn't just stick to music.
So important for women to be involved in promoting and producing arts. In the small time we have left, would you say yes, and how important?
It's important because we can't all be out front in the on the stage, and the joy of telling someone else's story to the point that it enhances their success and moves them forward is an important role for women.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Janis, for all you do and all you continue to do in hometown.
Thank you.
Janis Lane-Ewart. Thank you for watching Urban Perspectives. I would like to thank my sponsors, the Council on Black Minnesotans, Stair Step Foundation, the Metropolitan Economic Development Association, and Comcast. My guests, Jamecia Bennett, Patricia Mitchell, and Janis Lane-Ewart. And our shining star, of course, PaviElle French, and you, the audience, for getting up with Urban Perspectives. Visit our website at urbanperspectives.tv for information on our guests, and you can also help us grow by liking our Facebook page. And remember, there are positive things happening in our cities. You can see them right here on Urban Perspectives. Enjoy the photos of the week as we close with the 3rd annual Fathers Daughters Dance. I'm Pete Rhodes. I'll see you next week.